I actually write jokes backwards. I will write a punchline with no particular setup in mind. I just put it on a scrap of paper, and I'll throw that scrap of paper in my fishbowl. I have a fishbowl in my house filled with random punchlines. And every once in a while, I'll shake the bowl, and I'll dig in there and just pull one out and see if I can make that shit work. And I picked one for this special. It's not an easy punchline to pull off. Are you ready? Yeah. Here it goes. The punchline is, so I kicked her in the pussy. I haven't finished the joke yet. I just know whatever happens in the beginning of the joke, at the end of the joke, for some reason, I'm gonna kick somebody in the pussy. And it's going to be hilarious. When I was growing up, I was probably about 8 years old, and at the time, we were living in Silver Spring. My parents did just well enough so that I could grow up poor around white people. And to be honest, when Nas and them talk about the projects, nigga, I used to get jealous because it sounded fun. Everybody in the projects was poor, and that's fair. But if you were poor in Silver Spring, nigga, it felt like it was only happening to you. Nas does not know the pain of that first sleepover at a white friend's house. And you come back home on Sunday and just look at your parents like, y'all need to step your game up. Everything at Timmy's house works. Timmy was one of my first white friends, like, in my life, man. And one day I was at his house, we were just hanging out, and Timmy says, Dave, why don't you stay for dinner tonight? I said, oh, man, I'd love to, but I can't. If I'm not home before dark, my mother will kill me. That was a lie. My mother had several jobs. I hadn't seen her in like 3 or 4 days. And the only reason I lied to Timmy was because at that point in my life, it was my experience that white dinner wasn't delicious. I'd rather go home and fry some bologna or some shit like that. But then old Timmy threw me a curveball I wasn't expecting. He said, well, it's too bad you can't stay, Dave, because Mom made stovetop stuffing. I said, what the fuck, stovetop? Well, hold on, nigga, let me make some phone calls real quick. I had seen that commercial so many times, I had dreamt of getting my hands on some of that stovetop stuffing. And finally, I met a motherfucker that actually had a box of stovetop in the house. I couldn't miss this opportunity, so I pretended to call my mother. And then I came back and I said, Timmy, you're not gonna believe this great news. Mom said I can stay. And he said, fantastic. He said, why don't you come with me and we'll help set the table and then we can say the blessing. I had no interest in setting this motherfucker's table or saying these crazy ass Mormon prayers. I just wanted that goddamn stuffing. So I told Timmy, I said, you know what, I'd love to help, but let me go wash my hands first. My plan was simple. Wash my hands slowly, and by the time I'm done, the table will be set, the blessing will be said, and all that there will be left to do is eat. Went to the bathroom. I washed my hands very slowly. I must have been in there for about 10 minutes. And suddenly, one of his mothers came to the door. She was like, hi, David, right? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, Timmy tells me that you're planning on staying for dinner. I said, I hope that's not a problem, ma'am. She says, no, it's no problem. In fact, we'd love to have you. It's just that we weren't expecting company. And I'm afraid there's not enough stovetop stuffing for everybody. So I kicked her in the pussy. Bam! Ladies and gentlemen, It's like that white black bitch that's in the news all the time. Rachel Dolezal. She always says that. She's a white woman, but then she dressed up like a nigga and shot her way up to the very top of blackness. How far is Rachel willing to go? What is Rachel willing to do so that we blacks can believe that she believes she's actually one of us? Bitch, are you willing to put a lien on your house so that you can invest in a mixtape that probably won't work out? She didn't even change her name. Didn't even change her name. Her name is Rachel. I can't believe in that name. If you want my support, you're gonna have to change your name to the blackest shit I've ever heard. Bitch, you're gonna have to change your name to Draymond Green. I don't know a blacker name than that. That shit is black on paper. If you type Draymond Green into Airbnb, that shit will log off automatically. I'm so good at writing jokes, and this is not even an exaggeration. I actually write jokes backwards. I will write a punchline with no particular setup in mind. I just put it on a scrap of paper, and I'll throw that scrap of paper in my fishbowl. I have a fishbowl in my house filled with random punchlines. And every once in a while, I'll shake the bowl, and I'll dig in there and just pull one out and see if I can make that shit work. And I picked one for this special. It's not an easy punchline to pull off. Are you ready? Yeah. Here it goes. The punchline is, so I kicked her in the pussy. I haven't finished the joke yet. I just know whatever happens in the beginning of the joke, at the end of the joke, for some reason, I'm gonna kick somebody in the pussy. And it's going to be hilarious.
When I've seen your work, I've never seen anyone better. I've just never seen anybody better.
The worst thing that can happen to you in your mind when you're working out is that you'll lose it all or you'll blow it. But once you face that, it's not everything. Have you ever worked all your life for something and have it not work out? That happened to me. It was tough. Think about it. I was gone for 12 years. It's not a little bit of time. It was hell. I watched other niggas that I knew become very famous. I watched the world go on without me. I mourned the loss of it, and after a while, I didn't care. I err on the side of excess, and there's instances where you go too far. You're playing with powerful shit, doing jokes about racism and this ism and that ism. I respect everybody's beliefs, except Amish people. Because they are the only ones that I can say clearly their God is wrong. Speed limit is 75 miles an hour in Ohio, and one lane of traffic is blocked by a goddamn horse and buggy. Nigga, your God is ridiculous. The attempts at these jokes, they're like Evel Knievel tricks. I hope to land them, but yeah. I actually write jokes backwards. I will write a punchline with no particular setup in mind. I just put it on a scrap of paper, and I'll throw that scrap of paper in my fishbowl. I have a fishbowl in my house filled with random punchlines. And every once in a while, I'll shake the bowl, and I'll dig in there and just pull one out and see if I can make that shit work. Any job that makes you depend on the approval of others for your livelihood, it's a crazy job. You know, normally when you do a comedy show, you guys don't know what it looks like up here, but niggas be just looking up at you like. That's how the show started. It didn't take long for their faces to switch up like, I started looking them up themselves. So I knew I wasn't doing good. I don't remember what I was saying. So much of the work of art is on the viewer to an interpreter. Discernment is on them. More than ever, they gotta do their own work.
It's a black lady with a Ford Motor shirt on. Stood up suddenly. Fuck you, Dave Chappelle. I said, excuse me? You will never get your fucking money back.
It's easy for me to do things if I've seen them before. Because of your show, many of the things I learned to do, I saw them somewhere.
This might be the noblest of professions. Robin Williams had a bar that I loved. He said comedy is the only job you can have where you can use everything you know. And that's true. You can use more than you know. If you use what you think, use it. Don't be afraid. Don't let these bitch-ass niggas button your lip. Say it anyway.
You're good, man. Thank you. Temperature check.
It's going to be impacted by my sunburn, isn't it?
Oh, I don't think so. You better be prepared.
Just step right over to the table. You take your picture. Or you may sit in any of the black chairs that are on the lawn. Cool. The tie top or the
They're in Washington, D.C. Yeah. I was 19. He was 17. We were doing a gig at a club called Garvin's. And I remember Dave and I went to McDonald's between shows, and we talked about comedy and his future, what his future plans were going to be. And I said, come to New York City. And after he graduated high school, he did. And he came to New York, and we worked at the same comedy club, the Boston Comedy Club. And, all right. I know it's a little confusing. It was a club in New York City called the Boston Comedy Club. Look, I don't come up with the names, cokeheads do. But in New York, Dave was immediately beloved by the stand-up comedy community. And I remember he got a part in the Mel Brooks movie, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and we were all like, Dave made it!
Whoa. Who's the man? Who's the man? Go.
He came back from LA, and he got right on stage to talk about his trip out west and how he finally went to Compton after hearing so much about it. And he was like stunned to see that people there had yards. All the lore of Compton, and people were like mowing their lawns. And of course they were, but there was just like something about that tiny little detail. And that's what he does. He lets himself be surprised by what he learns, and then he takes us with him as he, looks at it from every angle, angles that most of us don't even see.
Isn't it weird how there's a disease that just starts in 1980 and it doesn't kill anybody but niggas, fags, and junkies? Isn't that a fucking amazing coincidence that this disease hates everybody that old white people hate? I think either God is white or the government hid that shit in disco balls.
He's always thinking about stuff. He's examining everything. And he really, he gets in his own world.
Now, this is when I knew I was in a bad neighborhood. You only see this in the worst neighborhoods. Remember, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I look out the window. It was a fucking baby standing on a corner. And the baby didn't even look scared. He was just standing there. I mean, it made me sad. It made me sad, really. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to help the baby. I was like, I don't trust you either. I'm sorry. Click. Click.
I remember we were together in Vancouver, and he came over to smoke a joint. And that's exactly what he did. He came over, and he smoked a joint. The whole thing. Like by himself. While pontificating about everything that's wrong with the world. I'll tell you what's wrong with the world. A lack of sharing. I think it's puff, puff, pass, not puff, 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 puff. Dave, can you believe this? You're getting the freaking Mark Twain Prize. You deserve it. It's the right thing. It's actually perfect that you're getting the Mark Twain Prize because you both love using the N-word in your masterpieces.
Why is it that I can say the word nigger with impunity, but I can't say the word faggot? And she said, because, David, you are not gay. I said, well, Renee, I'm not a nigger either.
Hi, I'm John Mulaney, and this is how I got started. So when I was growing up, there were 1,000 million comedians on TV all the time. The first comedian I ever saw was a guy named Dennis Wolfberg, who was a Chicago-based comedian. He was on cable. I liked like The Amazing Jonathan. I liked Bobcat Goldthwait, Comic Relief, those specials. I'd watch all those. David Byrne was a big influence because when I was a kid, Stop Making Sense was very funny to me. And I also thought that I looked like him when I was a kid. So I thought if I had to dance, I would dance like him and Stop Making Sense. Because I was like, okay, that's a funny way to act. And when I started doing stand-up, I talked a little like David Byrne. There's a bonus feature on Stop Making Sense where David Byrne interviews himself. And he's like, what are your favorite hobbies? And it's like, getting haircuts. And like, I kind of talked like that when I started doing stand-up. The first time I was on stage like ever in life would have been in a Christmas pageant when I was 4.
What did you play?
An Israelite. I mean, like a passerby. Not a shepherd, not a wise man, not Joseph, not the innkeeper, which actually I would have liked to, now that I think about it the most, that would be the funniest role. My wife's pregnant. Yeah, I know, but we don't have any rooms. Like 4 to 9, I was Gary Coleman good all the time. Very funny, witty, good exit lines, like great with adults. It started to happen right around 10 or 11, and I was starting to get introverted. I do remember my mom one day, she went, what happened to that happy boy that used to be here? But I don't know. So 11, 12, really lost. Not lost, just like trying a lot of things. Like I had like metal bracelets from Urban Outfitters. I was just like trying things. I didn't know how to act. And then high school, drink, smoke weed, and do coke and stuff, and do Ritalin. So that was like, then I could come out of my shell when I was all messed up on that. And I was funny with my friends then, and I started to feel like I am funny and I like this type of thing, but I still would choke whenever I auditioned for a school play. And then, so I stopped drinking and doing all sorts of genuinely fun things when I was 23. And then I started to become like I was when I was like 8 or 9. I felt funny in a way I hadn't in like decades. So I left college and I was a temp and I got assigned at Comedy Central. So I was actually an assistant to the head of development. And then sometimes when he was in town, I was the assistant to the president of Comedy Central. And that was really interesting because like Chappelle show was on there. I took the call when Chappelle went missing to South Africa. They were like, you have to interrupt the meeting and tell them. And I was like, okay. And I went in and I was like, so Dave Chappelle's gone. And they're like, yeah, I know, like, because Dave Chappelle was often 3 to 4 hours late. So they were like, we know he's late, you know? And I was like, no, they say he's gone. And they were like, health and safety issue? And I was like, I went back to the phone, I was like, is it a health and safety issue? And they were like, yes. And I was like, it's a health and safety issue. They wanted to get season 3 of Chappelle, the tapes from production. And they were gonna put me on a plane that day and send me to LA to get the physical tapes so that they couldn't be destroyed and fly back to New York with them. And that was like interesting, but it felt like actually like a hindrance to being a comedian. So I left that job. I wrote freelance ad copy for a tchotchke catalog that would sell like, you know, candles and such. And then I started going on the road with a comedian named Mike Birbiglia, and I would MC for him. And then I did a college tour with him, and it was like 30 days straight. And I remember I got back from that and I had $2,600. My rent was $600 a month. Then I got a tax refund because I'd made so little money as a temp, and it was for $2,000. So then I had $4,600 roughly, and I was like, I am set. This is the greatest. I was like, I am flush. And I wanted to work, so it was that type of thing where it's like, I don't need to do, it was like, but you're trying to get your career started, but you're thinking like a shut-in or a retiree. I'm like, I don't have to do a thing. I'd be like, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow and I couldn't do stand-up, which by the way, didn't pay much, I could live for, you know, however many months and then be evicted. So I quit all other temp jobs and just did stand-up. I read once David Byrne say that he makes things because he wants to see them. I wanted to make the John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch musical comedy children's special because I wanted to see it. There were like albums when I was a kid, like Harry Nilsson's The Point, Carole King's Really Rosie. Free to Be You and Me was a big influence. That was kind of the first jumping off point. I just felt like there were like things from weird people for children. One problem of making a variety show is that I and several people that have worked on this already worked on a variety show that exists, and everything gets compared to it. So I was trying to think of any other good variety show other than the one we used to work on NBC, and there aren't many. And then I realized that Sesame Street was the only other variety show as successful as the show we worked on, which was Saturday Night Live. There were multiple kids in the Sack Lunch that I identified with. Not just that they had different traits, but I could identify with them at different times in my life. Young John Mulaney wouldn't have wanted to be in this special more. Like, you can't fathom how much I would have wanted to be in the special, but I think I would have tightened up at the audition. I think I would have blown it. And that's how I got started. Though it did deviate a few times, and we got into some libel and slander and how much money I had in 2005. But my new special, John Mulaney and the Sack Lunch Bunch, is streaming now on Netflix, so please check it out.
I don't know if you ever saw on TMZ the big headline, Dave Chappelle drunk on stage in Detroit. Well, if you saw it, I wasn't drunk. I had smoked some reefer with some rappers. Yeah. I don't know if you know anything about hanging out with rappers, but their weed is very strong. Stronger than what I was accustomed to. The article goes on to say I was booed off stage, which is also incorrect. I was booed. I did not leave. It was a long bump. It was a fucking nightmare. 2 puffs of weed, that's all it was. 2 puffs. I never had that happen. When I take 2 puffs of weed, I looked at the guy next to me, I was like, I'm gonna bomb, nigga, I can feel it. And that guy called my name, Dave Chappelle. Niggas was like, You know, normally when you do a comedy show, you guys don't know what it looks like up here, but niggas be just looking up at you like. That's how the show started. Didn't take long for the faces to switch up, like, what the fuck? They started looking amongst themselves. So I knew I wasn't doing good. I don't remember what I was saying. It just took one person to break the ice. It's a black lady with a Ford Motor shirt on. She stood up suddenly. Fuck you, Dave Chappelle. I said, excuse me? She said, I worked all week for this shit, and this show sucks. And in a weird act of racial harmony, a conservative white guy stood up and backed her up. Yeah! The whole crowd band together and started chanting, "We want our money back. We want our money back." I said, "Oh shit." I snapped out of it. Good people of Detroit, hear me. Hear me now. You will never get your fucking money back. Fuck that. I said, I'm like Evel Knievel. I get paid for the attempt. I didn't promise this shit would be good. Boo, they said, fuck you. This went on for a long time. And then after the show, I felt so bad, I took half of the money from the show, thousands of dollars. I said, I'm gonna give this to charity. You know what I did? I bought $25,000 worth of bubble gum and drove around Detroit and handed it out to the homeless so they could chew it and still be hungry. I was very mad at Detroit that night. Because not only did I bomb, nigga, I had to go back to the very same room the next night and do it all over again. Fucking nightmare. That would be like if you were having sex with a woman and for some reason, this would never happen, but for some reason, she had a mouse trap in her pussy. You get caught in the trap. And then you gotta fuck her again tomorrow night. I'd still do it, but you know, I'd be careful the next time. The old mouse trap in the pussy trick, eh? Fool me once. Yeah, it was a tough time. And I wanted to give up sometimes. I almost did give up, but then right before I gave up, I decided not to. But I made the call. They answered the phone. Hello? Dancing with the Stars. I said, not yet. Not yet. Yeah. Oh, if you see me on that shit, it's over. Trust me. My spirit is broken. If you see me waiting for them judges, getting critiqued on my cha-cha, fuck that.
I'll be real with you, and I know nobody gives a fuck what I think anyway. I'm not for abortion. Oh, shut up, nigga. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. It all depends on who I get pregnant. I don't care, I'm tell you right now, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or anything. If you have a dick, you need to shut the fuck up on this one. Seriously. This is theirs. The right to choose is their unequivocal right. Not only do I believe they have the right to choose, I believe that they shouldn't have to consult anybody except for a physician about how they exercise that right. Gentlemen, that is fair. And ladies, to be fair to us, I also believe if you decide to have the baby, a man should not have to pay. That's fair. If you can kill this motherfucker, I can at least abandon him. It's my money, my choice. And if I'm wrong, then perhaps we're wrong. Figure that shit out for yourselves. Tonight I'm gonna do something that I'm not particularly good at, but that I like to do. Tonight I'm gonna try some impressions out. I only got two. All right, the first impression's kind of dumb, but I like it. This is my impression. You ready? This is my impression
of the founding fathers of America when the Constitution was being written. You ready? Here it goes. Hurry up and finish that Constitution, nigger. I'm trying to get some sleep. It's not bad, right? All right, the next one. The next one's a little harder. I want to see if you can guess who it is I'm doing an impression of. All right, let me get into character. You gotta guess who it is, though. Okay, here it goes. Hey, if you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're fucking finished. Who's that? That's you. That's what the audience sounds like to me. That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all niggas is the worst motherfuckers I've ever tried to entertain in my fucking life.